Hi, I'm Andrea, and in this video I would like to share my experience after the first unconference that we organized inside Redgate. So Redgate Software is my employer, and today for the first time, we organized an unconference for all the product division. And what we did actually got people together, and we kind of come up with some topics to discuss. We assigned some topics to rooms, and then we kind of created a sort of agenda on the spot. And then everyone basically attended the session that we're most interested about. So it could be just a talk, that someone actually sharing what they've learned or their experiences, or it could be just a chat. So I just want to fairly quickly in this video go with you and share what I've learned today and my reactions. So overall, I'm quite, it was the first time I actually attended an unconference, so I was a bit skeptical because I usually tend to like, to know in advance what I'm going to attend, but actually it was a lot better than what I expected, and a lot of people actually come up. So what actually I attended was the first session was from Ian Johnson, one of our colleagues in Redgate, that actually shared about the Cornish Hens. That is basically a way of looking at the coupling in your code, and basically use that idea as a way to drive your design. I'm not going into the details, but I didn't know about this before. This is the first time I'm hearing about the Cornish Hens concept. But the idea is that you have some different type of dependencies in your code, or Cornish Hens. Like if you have a variable that is of type string, but in reality is a date, you have a sort of a meaning Cornish Hens. If instead you have a type with two different methods that must be called in a particular order, you have an execution order Cornish Hens. So, and we have a list of Cornish Hens that are of different strengths, so you can actually order them based on how basically make your design more coupled. And the overall goal of using this approach is trying to basically decrease the strength of the Cornish Hens, the degree of the Cornish Hens, and the locality. So it's a lot better to have some concept all in one place instead of spread across the code base or stuff like that. So it's definitely worth spending a bit more time in looking at this metric that I didn't know about. So it's definitely I've learned definitely something. The other session I've attended was a bit of a code clinic. We kind of look at a piece of code in one of our products, and we discuss what we didn't like about it, how we could improve it, and basically trying to get a feeling of how we can improve our code bases, what we can start, where to start, what to do, and all this sort of things. We actually didn't quite did any refactoring. We mostly talked about things, but was actually quite an interesting discussion to kind of see how different people approach code smells, basically. The third session I've attended was about team dynamics. It's actually a topic I raised. I want to discuss about forming teams, and especially working in bigger teams, because recently we introduced having two teams working on the same product, stuff like that. So we kind of expanding a bit. So what are the problems when the teams become bigger, and how can you maintain the agility of the team? And actually what's quite interesting, there was one of our dev leads, Priya, actually shared what she's learned from a book that she read about self-selecting teams, kind of getting people together and based on the business constraints, create the teams. So basically each one could select which team to belongs to, and based on some particular constraints. So basically at the end of the event, you would have the whole teams format. We discussed some pros and cons of that approach and so on. And we also discussed all the various problems about having bigger teams, like communication problem, collaborations, the fact that you tend to have more meetings, how the architecture of the code impact actually the ability to scale and having more teams. Actually, we've learned that this is actually quite important. I quite like the idea that one of us actually raised the idea is that before, when you have one team working on a product, before extending, increasing the size of the team, or actually creating two teams working on the same code base, it's probably worth doing some prep work in a way that when the second team comes along, there will be a more clear interface between the different components of the code base that you want to change. I think that was quite a good idea, because if the code is too difficult to work with and there is a bit more coupling, it can be quite difficult to split easily the responsibility of two teams. So I thought it was quite interesting discussion. It's certainly I'm gonna certainly look at the book and see if there's something that we can learn from. But overall, it was actually quite a lovely discussion. The last session I attended was about quality, the language of quality. How can we better communicate quality across stakeholders? And one of the key takeaways was that often as developers, we don't quite translate the refactoring efforts, the code improvement efforts that we make well when we talk to manager or product managers or sales or anything like that. Because I often, sometimes we are in stand-ups, we say, oh, yesterday I did a bit of refactoring there, and then I did this X and Y. So, but you need to elaborate a bit better on what do you mean with refactoring. Well, actually, what was the value that you delivered with the refactoring? Like you could say, oh, I made this bit here of code easier to maintain, so that the next time we're going to add a new X, will be quicker, or stuff like that. Trying to put that in the words of the business, if it's possible, that is even better. But it's a very difficult skill. It's also difficult for me. We are engineers. We love talking about code, but sometimes we need to understand that other people do not speak code. So we need to do a better effort to do that. In addition to that, we also need to do a better work in celebrating engineering efforts as well across the different roles in the company in general. Making the engineering efforts, the quality improvement we make more visible as well. So it's actually was one of the key takeaway for that. So I think the lesson is trying to in addition to say what you did in terms of features, also say what you did in terms of refactoring in a more clear and tangible way that others can understand. And sometimes using terminology can make a big difference. Like if you use operational risk versus technical depth, can basically means different things to different people. So it's quite difficult sometimes to talk and use the same language. So, and the other quick things we discussed about was about policy, like making sure that the teams have clear policies that helps to drive the quality of the product as well. But yeah, the general point was pain points, especially engineering pain points, technical depth should be bubble up to other stakeholders in a way that they can understand. Also, this is our responsibility to do. So overall, I think I really like this idea of the unconference. Here in Redgate, we have the concept of 10% time. So Friday afternoon is allocated for learning. You can do whatever you want. You can actually learn new techniques, new frameworks, or actually organize conferences like that. So I have to thank you very much for Ian Johnson and Jeff Foster for organizing the event, and I'm sure we will do a lot more than this sort of this kind of conferences going forward. There were a lot more talks, obviously I couldn't attend, but it's I definitely something that a format that I recommend you. So if you are working in a software company or in general in any kind of company, you can set up an unconference fairly easily. It requires very little preparation, and you can bring people together. Sometimes I even talk with people that I never actually work with on a day-to-day basis, and it's actually quite nice to talk about topics that we are interested about, meet new people, and it's definitely a win-win situation for the company in general. So definitely recommend you to give it a go to unconferences. I was very skeptical, but at the end of the day, I think I now understand why there is value for in organizing these sort of conferences, because at the end you are going to talk actually or what you're actually interested in. There is not a fixed agenda, and the agenda is made by the people that actually attend it. So yeah, definitely quite interesting. So looking forward to see what's next, and thank you for watching.